I'm Bethany Maddock.
And I am random strange person. My name is Ivy Doomkitty. And welcome to my panel, So They Say You Shouldn't Cosplay. Now, for this panel, first I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming in and listening into this panel. Thank you so much. Now, with this particular panel, I realized that there really wasn't anything like this out there for prospective cosplayers or people or cosplayers in general. And some of the topics that I wanted to cover, I feel, it's something that people kind of try to put in the back of their minds or not really think about. And I'm all about, hey, let's address these things and bring them out there and let's talk about it. So hopefully by the end of this panel, you guys will have a different mindset and actually go out there and start cosplaying. And as our panelists have already announced themselves, I would like to start with BelleChere. How did you get started in cosplay? How did you start cosplaying?
I started 8 or 9 years ago. I wanted to be robed for Halloween, and I had no idea that cosplay was a thing. And so I found this X-Men costume forum, and I had no idea how to sew. I just total noob, and I discovered that, oh my gosh, there's a community about this, and it's pretty fantastic, and the people that are involved in this community are great people, and I've made a lot of friends and learned a whole lot of things through that forum and through trial and error, and I've been involved in it ever since, off and on, kind of going through my own trials and tribulations, but sticking with it because
she's awesome. That's why she should stick to it forever. Yes. Well, I actually. Oh, let me get
Bethany.
Yeah. Hey. Not used to microphones. What's up? Okay. So I actually started in cosplay. I had a friend that I worked with, and she was like, you gotta get into this. I do cosplay. She actually works at Anime Boston. She does Anime Boston all the time. She's super awesome. AB! And yeah, AB, woo! Yeah! AB crab. So she's like, you gotta go to AB. And I was like, okay, I was kind of on the fence about it. And video games is like my real realms where I'm at.
Yeah, video games.
Yeah. Get some. But yeah. So anyways, she's like, you gotta do this. I went to art school. She knew I was crafty, and she was really trying to get me into it. And I was kind of nervous and on the fence, and I didn't know anybody else, and I wasn't familiar with like other people besides her. So I just didn't know anything about it. And then I had this trip to Japan that I was supposed to go to, which is like a lifelong dream of mine. I've always wanted to go to Japan, and it was the perfect opportunity. I had someone that I was going to be going with that was just perfect time, and they knew the language, and I was able to go. And unfortunately, that year was the horrible earthquake and tsunami and the nuclear meltdown, and it was just the week before I was supposed to fly out. So I was really bummed out, and like kind of depressed, and I was like, you know what, okay, I'm going to pick myself back up, I'm going to go to Anime Boston, I'm going to make a costume, I'm going to do this, like, this is my makeup, like, let's go for it. And I did a more feminine version of Chic from Ocarina of Time. Anyone? Ocarina of Time? Right? Freaking awesome game. But so I did that, and the outpouring of love and support and just immediate friendship that I got from that very first time of just showing off my fandom, like what I loved, and able to talk to people about Zelda all day long, like, oh my god, it was so cool! So, I mean, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop after that. And I did go to art school, so crafting and making things is just kind of in my blood. So it was the perfect combination of like nerdiness and craftery, which is a word. So yeah, that's kind of how it started.
I need to have you on more panels. How many of you were here for the Cosplay 101 panel yesterday?
Yay.
Okay, so you're going to hear me repeat a few things. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Tell the convention organizers that we need
Bigger
a bigger
rooms.
room.
Bigger room, yeah!
How did I get started cosplaying? Okay, so about 9 years ago, went to my first comic book convention, and I grew up around video games and watching X-Men, Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all the awesome cartoons of the 90s were what I loved. I wasn't into Barbie or any of that stuff. It just wasn't my thing. And, you know, went to my first con 9 years ago and saw all of those things around me, and I just absolutely loved it. You know, for me it was just the idea of dressing up as a character that you grew up with and a character that you feel passionately about. I fell in love with that concept. And what better way is it to, you know, emulate them, be them for a day or two or however many you want. But the thing is that I did not cosplay immediately because I was terrified of what people would say. I was worried they were going to call me names or body shame me or what have you, so I didn't do it. Then about 4 years ago, throughout this time, you know, I go over to different conventions, and at San Diego Comic-Con, several years ago, I can't remember how far, I met comic book artist Frank Cho. Anyone familiar with Frank Cho in here? Yeah! I met him and just massively fangirled over him. Yeah, it was bad. Yeah.
Whatever.
But, you know, over time, like, we became friends, and, you know, he shoots me this email just out of the blue 4 years ago and says, hey, you want to model for me at a comic book convention for my figure drawing class? I'm like, oh, hell yes. Oh, wait, are there any kids in here? Okay, oh, sorry, okay. I'll keep it PG. No F-bombs, I don't say that. So, you know, I did it. A friend and I made a Ms. Marvel costume. So I had left this one on the camera.
Yeah! Shout out to Ms. Marvel. Sorry.
We've all been this.
Yeah, we were both Ms. Marvel yesterday. We were planning on doing it on Friday, but it's okay. Sometimes you like lose props and stuff, and you just can't. It doesn't work, so it happens. It's okay. Ms. Marvel.
But we made the costume, and I wore it and for the figure drawing class, but I didn't really count it as cosplay at that moment because I wasn't walking the floor or anything. It was strictly modeling. So, you know, I had fun, loved it. He asked me to do it the next year, so I did it. And in the third year, so I did it. And then come San Diego Comic-Con 2012, I decided, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to cosplay, I'm going to walk the floor, and I'm going to have fun. So the one that I count as my first cosplay is, anyone here read Liberty Meadows?
Yes!
Yeah! Okay, there's one. That's good. Brandy from Liberty Meadows dressed as a red shirt. He came out with a print for San Diego Comic-Con, and I asked him, hey, would it be okay if I cosplay as your character? Yeah, go for it. So I did, made the costume the same week of San Diego Comic-Con, and walked the floor, had an absolute blast, and I just loved the interaction between everyone there, all the people that were fans of either Liberty Meadows or fans of Star Trek, just that interaction, going back and forth. Oh, you have a trill. Oh, what episode? Blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, I love this episode or that episode, or, oh, the hair braiding, you know, just different things. And from that point onward, I just kind of went crazy and started making a bunch of costumes. But I'll get back into that in a second, because there's more to that story. But I did want to go back to BelleChere. What were some of the personal hurdles that you had to overcome? And what advice could you give to someone that's struggling through it?
So when I first started so I made my first Halloween costume as Rogue, and then I've known about Dragon Con since I was 13 years old, and I've wanted to go since I was 13 years old. So finally, when I was 20, I think, I went to Dragon Con and absolutely loved it. And I didn't encounter any negativity or anything like that. And it wasn't until the next year where I really understood that not everyone was all for cosplay, and that people had negative opinions about dressing up in costumes, which seems funny to me because the whole thing is costume play. So back in 2008, I did Ivy Valentine from Soul Calibur.
It's so good. It's so good.
And it's not really a widely cosplayed costume, and it got a lot of recognition, and I was not expecting the amount of recognition that it received, but it received a lot of, you know, with the good came the bad, and the really, really bad. So I almost stopped cosplaying in 2008 altogether because of the negativity and the insults that I was getting online. I was being emailed, told that I should just kill myself, told that that my thighs were ham hocks and that I was a whale. You know, every negative insult that you could get for being a curvier person. And it really hit me really, really hard. And so I took a couple months to reevaluate whether or not I really wanted to do this anymore. And thankfully, I decided yes. And I decided that I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this because I enjoy it, and I'm not doing it to appease other people. So therefore, their opinions should matter less to me. And it took a while to learn how to let water roll off your back, like, you know, like a duck, water off your back. It took a while to adapt to that sort of mindset, but I have, and it's the mindset that I've really tried to stick with ever since. So that's my big negativity thing. And the negative comments have they still come, but
yeah, I think honestly for me it's at conventions. Like conventions, I chat with people, I have fun. I have had very little bad interactions at con with like harassment or things like that. I've definitely had experience, in one in particular, New York Comic Con, which I'm sure some of you have probably heard of. But I mean, it gets handled, and it can be handled, especially at cons with like zero tolerance policies, which is being much more implemented now more than ever, which is amazing and so important. But I think a large amount of the negativity definitely comes from online. It's out there. People think that because they're between you and the internet, like they can say anything they want without like any repercussions or anything like that, because you know that those people would never say that to your face, like that bad comment. They would never call you fat. They would never like be like, you're too fat for that cosplay, like right to your face. Like they would never, and if they did, you know that I might get arrested for smacking a bitch. but you know, I mean, no. But I mean, some people are just rude, and that's where you kind of go into, you know, you can, if you do have a page, you can ban them. Just don't even allow that. Don't allow those comments, because they're not there to enjoy your craft. They're not there to enjoy the fandom. They're just there to nitpick and be mean. So they don't really care. They're just being negative. So, you know, there are some times where you kind of dwell and you look at yourself and you reflect and you're like, oh, like, that kind of made me feel shitty, but they win. Like, then they win. Like, why would you do that? Like, you gotta rise above it and know that you're doing this for yourself. Like, you know, I'm cosplaying for me because I'm having fun, I'm creating, you know, I'm able to talk about Mortal Kombat all day and, you know, yell, get over here! And it's super fun. So that's the point, and that, because it's so overwhelmingly positive, and mostly the cosplay community, like, on the whole, is super positive and so supportive of each other, and like big cheerleaders for each other. So that is like what you can cling to and be happy with. And you know, it's really stinks that there will always be that kind of negative Nancy, somebody that just wants to bring down your day. But that's on them. And if you want to be super mean and negative, then you're just a bad person. So that's you. Yeah.
So I'm going to take you back to when I was a kid. There's a reason for this. There we go. Okay, so growing up, I was pretty heavy set. And you know, as a kid, you don't really think about anything like that until the kids start making fun of you at school. So, you know, through elementary school, middle school, I was constantly ridiculed and made fun of. I was called some pretty nasty things that you kids just shouldn't be called, or, you know, it's just not right, you know. Your peers as children shouldn't call you those things, and it was really rough. And going into adulthood, when you hear those things all the time, even though your parents might say, you look this way and you look like that and you're fine, because you've had that hammered into you every single day that you go to school as a child, unfortunately those things do tend to stick in your head and stay with you for quite some time. So going into my adulthood, I still carried all of that baggage. I still had that mentality of, I look like this, and I'm horrible, and I am insignificant and meaningless, as it were. So when I first saw cosplay, back to how I got started, it was awesome to see people doing something that I wanted to do so badly, but at the same time, mentally, I was stopping myself from doing it because of having that mindset from a child of, they're going to call you these names and they're going to make fun of you, and you're going to go through the same things you went through as a kid, and you don't want to go through that again because it hurts so much. So that's why I did not cosplay for that length of time. I wanted to very much, but at the end of every con, it's a good thing you didn't do it, because can you imagine the things you would have been called? Can you imagine what you'd be going through right now? Can you imagine how much you'd be crying from people saying these things? And then fast forward to San Diego 2012, when I decided to cosplay. Throughout that time, because I had done the panel with Frank, it did definitely give me a huge self-esteem boost. I largely credit him for the reason why I cosplay, or pushing me to cosplay, because had he not stepped in and offered that up to me, I would have never developed a sense of self-worth or self-esteem, as it were, because I didn't view myself in that way. And it was one of those things that, if this guy sees me this way, then maybe there isn't something horribly wrong with me, and maybe it's okay for me to be me. But come San Diego, when I walked the floor, and I had fun. I was so nervous, but I had so much fun. At the end of the day, I went online and saw a bunch of my photos had popped up for the first time, and I was super excited. Oh, you know, I'm online. And there was a lot of positive comments, but there were also a lot of negative ones. And some of the negative ones were, since their kid's fat A, she-male was one that was very common on that thread, and pig, anything you can think of that someone would be called, that's what I was called, and it hurt, and I cried a lot, and you know, it was the whole, you probably shouldn't have done this because people were going to make fun of you. But then somebody told me, you know what? For every one negative comment that you have, look how many positive ones you have. You have 20, 30 positive comments. So why are you letting that one negative person affect all the positive things that this huge group of people are doing? And that kind of set in with me, and it just really made me take a step back and think, you know what, there are a lot of negative people out there, and there are people that are going to have their negative opinions, you know, and why are you letting yourself be affected by that person? Because if you are, then you are, in essence, living for them. If you choose to stop doing something that you enjoy, and you're going to end up doing something else, in other words, not cosplay, for example, for them, for their happiness, for their pleasure, you know, what's the point in that if you can't sit there and have fun yourself, you know? And there are going to be people that have negative comments. It happens. And it happens to everyone. You can think of the most perfect human being, male or female. There will always be somebody that has something negative to say. Guaranteed. And you know what? That's unfortunately how things are, but it's all in the matter in how we choose to react to that. Are we going to let that affect us? You know, I'm pretty sure every single one of us at one point or another in our life in this room has heard something negative about us. But how do we react to that? Do we let that bring us down and do we stop? Or do we push through it and say, you know what? Screw you. Oh, sorry kids. Yeah, screw you. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to have fun and I'm going to own it regardless of what you say. And then you know what? At the end of the day, you'll be happy with yourself and you're going to feel this overwhelming sense of accomplishment because you pushed through and you did something. You did something different and you enjoyed yourself. That's just my 2 cents on that. So the whole thing with body image, regardless of your body type, size, you can cosplay whoever you want. Don't let anyone tell you guys any different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
Don't, just do it. Just do it. Seriously. I mean, that's something huge. I mean, there's so many times when people tell you you can't, but why? Like, never listen to that. Cosplay is so much fun. I think everyone in the world should try it once because it is really that much fun. It really is.
The way I view things is if somebody says I can't, I'm like, oh, I can't. Challenge accepted. Let's do
right.
this.
That's right. Totally.
But now with skin color, should you cosplay out of your skin color?
Yes.
I mean, I'm a raccoon. Raccoons are what, brown and black or gray, and I think you can, right? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Look at this little thing. Sorry, I just noticed her little poof. Super cute.
What do you guys think about that?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Chaka. She's Princess Mentality Cosplay, and she does the best Sailor Venus I've ever seen, ever. She's so cute, and she's so sassy and so fun, and she does happen to be African American. And she wrote the most amazing article, I think it's on exojane.com or something, about this very issue. And if any, seriously guys, Google it, read it. She is the most amazing writer. I can't stress it enough. Read her article. She just speaks so well about the issue, and there's so many issues with that. I mean, first of all, it's just straight up racist. Like, if somebody comes up to you and says, oh, you can't wear that because you're not the right race. It's like, I would give the finger right now, but you know what I'm saying.
Reasons.
Yeah. But, I mean, honestly, if you love something, if you love to cosplay something, just wear it. Just do it. Who cares? Who cares? Yeah.
Wear it, but be aware of, don't change your skin color. It is offensive to other people because at the end of the day you can wash that skin color off, and other people.
Color is not a costume.
Yeah, color is not a costume.
No.
Yes, color is not a costume. So that's very sensitive. So, you know, there aren't many rules to cosplay, but just being aware of other people's. I don't want to say.
Just being respectful.
Being respectful. Yes, being respectful.
Yeah.
So,
unless you're She-Hulk or Mystique.
But but it doesn't matter what race you are or what race the character is. If you love that character, then